I've just rebuilt this Bosch VE pump. It's from a 200 TDI from a Discovery, but they're fitted to all different types of vehicles, Peugeots and a lot of cars from the 80s and the 90s. Now, it's been a bit of a challenge to rebuild this because there's no official service manual for one of these. They seem to be a well-kept secret, and Bosch do their very best to keep those manuals out of the hands of the general public. But there are a few videos out there, there are a few forum posts with pictures and details, but every single post seems to vary. Some people recommend one way and other people recommend another way. There seems to be no consistency, and a lot of the articles actually have incorrect information. It doesn't really seem to be a complete article on how to properly rebuild one of these things. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about the rebuild. I wanted to talk quickly about retiming one of these things. Now, it's supposed to use a special dial gauge with an extension and an adapter which threads into the back of the plunger bolt. But you don't really need to use that. I've just got a regular dial gauge here with a magnetic base, which is just bolted up to a vise. Probably not that accurate, but accurate enough for this. I've got an extension there, which I machined on a lathe out of a piece of brass stock. But you don't even need that. If you remove these, the delivery valves, injector delivery valves, you can just get a regular dial gauge in there. It's just a cheap Chinese dial gauge. I have got a proper one, but it's imperial. But this is the thing I wanted to talk about. It's the pulley on the 200 TDI. The timing pulley, it doesn't have any type of reference. There's no woodruff key machining inside the pulley itself, even though there is a woodruff key on the shaft. Now, I looked at a video from Britannica Restorations, and they note, or he notes, that the woodruff key should be roughly at the 4 o'clock position, and that is correct. And I know it's correct because you can see here I took a little notch out with a grinder which lines up with the timing pin hole at the 12 o'clock position, so I know that is in the right firing order. Now, timing one of these up, I was a bit confused at the beginning, but it's actually really simple. All you do is you put your pulley on. Doesn't really matter where it is. Usually the timing pin slot is slightly before, maybe 3 or 4 degrees before the actual timing pin. A hole on the actual casing itself. You put your washer on, you'd put your 22mm nut on, you'd tighten that up with your 22mm spanner. As I say, it doesn't have to be exact. You just nip that up like so. Then what you would do is you just take your dial gauge, you'd zero that off like that, and this is actually at the bottom dead center of the plunger. Now I can actually go backwards, and you can see it won't actually go further back. That plunger's at the bottom dead center, so even if I do go back, it doesn't go lower than 0. In fact, I just need to readjust that. Then what you need for the 200 TDI is 1.55mm of lift. So all I do is, in fact, let me stick this on a tripod so you can have a look. You would just spin this round. In fact, it's quite difficult to see, but there you go, there's 0. You want a complete revolution, so back to 0, and then 5, 5. There, that's 1.55mm of lift. So you can see here, well, in fact, luckily enough, that's fairly in line, but what we want to do is you want to lock the pump into that position so you can readjust the pulley so that it lines up with the timing pin. So what we do is, it's quite difficult to do this with one hand, hold on. What we would do is, once we got our 1.55 of lift, which is about there, we take a 10mm spanner and we undo this little bolt here, and you've got a little washer that's just fallen out. So now I can advance that bolt fully, and what that does is it locks the it pushes this bolt up against the drive shaft, and it locks the drive shaft in place, and so it locks the plunger. And basically, once that's locked in place, so that's at 1.55, I can release the tension on that pulley, and you can see that the plunger, well, it's just slightly above 1.55, but it's in the right position. So what we can now do is we can undo this nut, might need to use a bearing puller for this, but we want to take that pulley off. And then we want to stick our timing pin in and tighten that back up. Now we know that everything is timed up properly. We know that the timing pin going into the hole into the timing case corresponds to the right amount of lift on the main plunger. Then all we do, once this is tightened up, we can undo the locking nut here, put the spacer back in, which has been lost somewhere under the desk, but you put your spacer back in under there, your washer, and you tighten that back up, and then that will be timed up properly. Then you can set your flywheel to top dead center, reinstall the pump, reinstall the timing pin, and bolt your pulley back on, and that's it. That's as simple as it is. You don't need any special jigs, you don't need any special equipment, just a regular dial gauge onto a vise, and yeah, hopefully that helps somebody.